Welcome, my friends, to a place where we share inspiration and positivity. Welcome aboard, as we set sail on a journey through Rotorua, New Zealand electorate. Rotorua is a New Zealand parliamentary electorate, returning one member of parliament to the New Zealand House of Representatives. It was first established in 1919, and has existed continuously since 1954. The current MP for Rotorua is Todd McClay of the National Party, who won the electorate in the 2008 general election from incumbent Labour MP Steve Chadwick. In the next segment, we'll be exploring population centres and its implications for our subject matter. In the 1918 electoral redistribution, the North Island gained a further 3 electorates from the South Island due to faster population growth. Only 2 existing electorates were unaltered, 5 electorates were abolished, 2 former electorates were re-established, and 3 electorates, including Rotorua, were created for the first time. The original electorate, which was formed through the 1918 electoral redistribution, had a long coastline along the Bay of Plenty, and incorporated, beside Rotorua, the towns and villages of Waikit, Top, Tokoro, Rotorua, Mangekino, Ijicumb, Netua, and Murpara. In the 1922 electoral redistribution, the electorate lost some area to the electorate, and a larger area to the electorate. The 1927 electoral redistribution saw Rotorua become landlocked, with the electorate taking the coastline including Netua and Ijicumb, and Waikit going to the Bay of Plenty electorate. The electorate moved south and took in Lake Top, with Trangie just beyond the southern boundary located in the electorate. The electorate also grew in the northwest, gaining the town of Matamata. In the 1937 electoral redistribution, the electorate shifted further south again. Matamata was lost again, and the peaks of Tongariro, Goroho, and Rapo now formed the boundary to the Waimarino electorate. The 1946 electoral redistribution saw the Rotorua electorate abolished, with the Bay of Plenty electorate moving west and incorporating the town of Rotorua, most of the southern area going to the Waimarino electorate including the town of Top, and some area in the northwest going to the Waikato electorate including Tokoro. The first Labour government was defeated and the incoming national government changed the Electoral Act, with the electoral quota once again based on total population as opposed to qualified electors, and the tolerance was increased to 7.5% of the electoral quota. There was no adjustments in the number of electorates between the South and North Islands, but the law changes resulted in boundary adjustments to almost every electorate through the 1952 electoral redistribution. Only 5 electorates were unaltered. 5 electorates were reconstituted including Rotorua, and 1 was newly created, and a corresponding 6 electorates were abolished, all of these in the North Island. These changes took effect with the electorate was again landlocked and much smaller than prior to its abolition. Significant settlements included Rotorua, Tokoro, Top, and Mangekino, with Lake Top forming the southern boundary. Now, let's shift our perspective and explore demographics from a different angle. Over 40% of the population of Rotorua is under the age of 30, much of this because 37% of the electorate residents are Maori, who are on the whole younger than the national average 22.7 years old versus a national average of 35.9. There are also fewer voters earning over $30,000 per year, with the majority of workers coming from working class and semi-skilled professionals. Rotorua also has more unemployed people, 6.5% than most electorates, being ranked 52nd in the nation. The country quota applied until 1945, and the Rotorua electorate was initially classed as fully rural. Based on the 1926 New Zealand census, the 1927 electoral redistribution determined that 24% of the electorate's population was urban. Based on the 1936 census, the 1937 electoral redistribution determined that 36% of the electorate's population was urban. The current Rotorua electorate is positioned in the Bay of Plenty region in the central North Island. It is dominated by the town of Rotorua, and also contains the eastern Bay of Plenty towns of Cowra, Rotorua and Galatea, the last two of which are located on the outskirts of Rotorua National Park. In 2008, its boundaries were extended to the geographical bay, with the addition of coastline stretching from a cluster of rural towns including Pukina and Mactu to the outskirts of Tepuk. Moving forward, we'll be taking a closer look at history. An electorate based around Rotorua has been a part of the New Zealand electoral landscape since with a gap from to 1954. Previously the town of Rotorua was in the electorate from, then the East Coast electorate again from, then the electorate from, and then just in the Tauranga electorate again from to 1919. William Henry Wockrow was nominated in March 1922 as the opposition candidate for that year's election. Wockrow withdrew in November and was replaced by Cecil Clinkard, who lost against the incumbent, Frank Hockley of the Reform Party. Geoffrey Sim of the National Party won When the Rotorua electorate was abolished Sim successfully stood in Waikato electorate instead. After the electorate was re-established through the 1952 electoral redistribution, Ray Board of the Labour Party won Board served 2 parliamentary terms and was beaten by Nationals Harry Lapwood in Lapwood served for 6 parliamentary terms and retired in 1978. Lapwood was succeeded by his party colleague Paul East in East also served 6 parliamentary terms until 1996. With the advent of mixed-member proportional MMP voting the Rotorua electorate was greatly expanded to include areas previously part of the electorates. Both Tarawera and Rotorua were safe National Party electorates, and in the ensuing battle for the nomination, the 2 incumbents, East and Max Bradford, faced off for a Rotorua nomination eventually secured by Bradford, with East securing a high-list position. Bradford won the 1996 election with a nearly 6,000 votes margin. Despite both electorates being reasonably loyal to the National Party, Bradford's tenure as MP for Rotorua was just 3 years, before being ousted by Labour MP Steve Chadwick in Chadwick's initial majority of 4,978 votes blew out to over 7,500 in 2002 before it was reined into just 662 in 2005, as the National Party consolidated the centre-right vote, with its biggest gains being in the provincial North Island. In 2005, Chadwick's party was less popular than their candidate, coming 1,645 votes behind National. In 2008, Chadwick was defeated by National candidate Todd McClay, who won the electorate with a majority of 5,067 votes. In the 2011 election, McClay again returned as the member for Rotorua, increasing his majority to 7,357 votes. In 2014, McClay was elected as MP for a 3rd term, beating television personality Timothy Coffey by a similar majority to that in the previous election. Rotorua is also an electorate where the New Zealand First Party does well, with its biggest appeal among provincial New Zealanders, and as results in 1996 indicate, Maori, in the 3 most recent elections, New Zealand First has polled around 3% higher in Rotorua than it did in the rest of New Zealand. As we embark on the next leg of our journey, let's unpack the layers of members of Parliament for Rotorua and examine its core elements. Unless otherwise stated, all terms began and ended at general elections. Key. As we progress through this video, let's now turn our gaze towards lists from Rotorua. Members of Parliament elected from party lists in elections where that person also unsuccessfully contested the Rotorua electorate. Unless otherwise stated, all terms began and ended at general elections. Moving forward, we'll be taking a closer look at 2011 election. Electorate as at 26 November 2011, 42,886. Remember, knowledge is power. Keep learning, growing, and exploring.